Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
You're listening to another edition of Missions Pulse, where we explore the heart of missions through conversations with people at the center of it. Our guest today is someone who knows firsthand what it means to leave everything to follow Christ. Joe Keim is a former member of an old order Amish community who was cut off from his culture when he became a believer. Joe, you and your wife now head up a ministry called Mission to Amish People. I would love for our listeners to hear how the Lord called you to work with the Amish people.
My wife and I were born and raised Amish, and at the age of 16, I left out of rebellion, and I left 6 times, and each time ended up going back. But on that 6th time, a friend of mine sat down with me and shared the gospel with me, and it changed my life. It changed my life radically. Ended up going back to the Amish, got married, and then 9 months later, we left the Amish again. Having gone through all of that, I have a heart to help other ones that come to the ministry.
What are some practical ways that you help people who are leaving the Amish tradition?
Well, we have New Beginnings apartments that we put up in 2018, and it provides room for 8 girls at a time to come and live there while they transition from the Amish culture to the English culture.
How do most people find out about your mission?
Most of it is word of mouth. So it's been 36 years since Esther and I left the Amish, and we've taken in over 200 into our own home before we built the apartments. And, our name got out, our phone numbers got out. And it's not uncommon for us to get phone calls from Canada. Amish people are scattered throughout 30 states, and we get calls from every single state. And there's a real network. Can
you speak a little bit to the issue of the culture shock for people who come out of Amish culture in this day and age?
You lose your identity. You lose your purpose. You lose your family. You lose everything. And even though you live in the midst of America, when you transition out of that culture, you have to find a new identity.
It's interesting to me that Amish people are raised with some amount, or maybe even a great amount of religious teaching. But then when they walk away from that, what does that look like?
In general, when a person leaves, they leave because they want to experience freedom. They can't really throw those rules out without throwing God out, because it was all one big package, right? And then about 3 years into it, they start to kind of figure out this is actually something that the Bible says. This is not the Amish. This is God speaking. And so it just takes kind of a few years to figure out what was man-made and what is God. And I think about every one of them go through that.
For our listening audience, a lot of us have some level of interaction with Amish people, obviously pretty surface level, but we do come in contact with them on a fairly regular basis. Are there ways that Christians can engage Amish people on a little bit of a deeper level, despite not being part of their culture?
The best way to do that is all of them have some kind of business, and businesses are open to society. So use that as a way of driving in, connecting with them, and getting to know them. And in that process, be careful not to preach to them. What I found that works is you go in and you ask questions. Now, when you ask questions like, how does an Amish person get to heaven? They may never have been asked that question, but religious people are prideful people, and so they will give you an answer. What do you believe about Jesus? How's Jesus different compared from someone in English culture, Amish culture? Is he the same Jesus? Does he require something from English people that he doesn't require from Amish people? And wait for them to respond. And what that does is, number one, it puts them in control. And as long as they are in control, they're a little bit more relaxed. Secondly, it makes them feel like you really care about them.
How can our listeners get involved with your ministry?
There's a real movement going on in Amish culture right now. New York being one of the states that is just seeing a lot of activity, a lot of people getting saved. Just pray for God to do something big and use the Amish to wake up the rest of the world.
That was Joe Keim with Mission to Amish People. For more information about his ministry or to hear an extended version of this interview, be sure to check out our website at fln.org. I'm Abigail Hoffland, bringing you another edition of Missions Pulse on Family Life News.